So about a month ago, I did a video talking about who I feel are some of the next breakout stars of the NBA. Today I want to talk about some potential breakout teams that did not make the playoffs in this previous season, but I feel like they could make a really big jump next season in the NBA and perhaps surprise some people. But first, I'm going to name a couple of teams that I'm intrigued by, but I'm not ready to just say, oh yeah, they're definitely going to make a jump. One of them is the Milwaukee Bucks of the Eastern Conference. Giannis Antetokounmpo was awesome last season once they put him at point guard. With his size and athleticism and natural playmaking abilities, him alone becoming, potentially an all-star is going to help them out a lot. I'm still concerned about their front court situation. I don't know if Greg Monroe is the right center there. I mean, a decent low-post scorer, but when it comes to defense and things like that, I don't know if he's the right guy for them. John Henson might honestly be better given he's a natural defender as well as shot blocker. Jabari Parker, another year removed from injury. Chris Middleton is still good. I'm intrigued by Milwaukee, but the front court makes me just a little hesitant. And as for the Western Conference, the Denver Nuggets. Now, Emmanuel Mudiay had a tough time scoring last season, but he did show some natural abilities as a point guard, so perhaps another year of improvement, maybe an improved jump shot as well. Jamal Murray seems like a guy who can make an impact right away because he's a combo guard. Yusuf Nurkic lost a whole bunch of weight. Nikola Jokic was very good as a rookie last season for them. Perhaps a twin tower lineup with those two. You still have Wilson Chandler and Danilo Gallinari, as well as Kenneth Faried. I think the Nuggets could make a decent jump next year, but I think a decent amount of it is going to be on how much better does Emmanuel Mudiay get in one season. Now, besides those guys, the teams that I am pretty damn confident are going to make a jump, there's two of them. They're both in the Western Conference. First, the Utah Jazz. If you go down the Jazz roster, it's just full of quality players. I mean, the starting lineup, they gave up the 12th pick for George Hill. In a vacuum, that is a little pricey, but given the Jazz situation where they're desperately in need of a point guard, I think I like the move. I mean, George Hill, quality shooter, very good defensive player, smart, not really a guy who's going to force his way into the defense, but they don't really need him to do that because Rodney Hood as well as Gordon Hayward are guys who can dribble the ball as well, and they're going to be the guys dictating a lot of the offense. But George Hill is a spot shooter and a defender. He's going to be fine for them. Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert, I mean, one of the best front courts in the league. They don't completely complement each other offensively, but when it comes to just scoring inside, I mean, Derek Favors is a beast down low. Rudy Gobert finishes well at the rim. And then if we're talking about defensively, I mean, he's the Stifle Tower. I mean, Utah was second in opponents' points per game last year, 7th in defensive rating. And I think with the addition of George Hill at the point guard spot, as well as Joe Johnson as probably the scorer off the bench for these guys, they're going to get better offensively, and since they're already awesome on defense, I think Utah is probably going to win around 50 games next season. I mean, the second unit is Dante Exum and Alec Burks and Joe Johnson. There's Trey Lyles. I mean, Utah is pretty damn loaded. And then the team that is not really going to surprise you, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who won, 20-something games last season. OKC was in a similar situation as Minnesota is right now. They went from 20-something wins to 50 in 1 year. Do I think the T-Wolves are going to jump up to 50 wins? Well, here's what I do know. Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins are getting a year better, which in and of itself is going to give them at least 10 to 15 more wins. Tom Thibodeau's the head coach, one of the best coaches in the league. And I think, personally, I might want to see Zach LaVine as the starting two guard, and then Chris Dunn being the primary ball handler off the bench. And Ricky Rubio might get moved as little as this season, depending on how good Chris Dunn is. And I think trading Ricky Rubio could open up filling up some sort of other position. I like Gorgie Dang next to Karl Anthony Towns. Dang is a very good shot blocker, which I think as Towns gets better as a defensive player, that could be a really intimidating front court to try to score against. But Dang's also pretty decent from mid-range, and I trust that Tom Thibodeau will be able to combine both Towns and Dang's abilities to hit the 15-footer. Of course, Towns is probably going to average over 20 points per game next season, and he might become one of the top 10 players in the league because he's that frickin' good already. Also mentioned Zach LaVine a minute ago. You could still have him come off the bench, but I haven't really found the shooting guard option for the T-Wolves. Now, I'm just Googling T-Wolves roster. Maybe they made some shooting guard addition that I don't know off the top of my head, but I think Levine's the best option at the 2-guard spot, and I think Chris Dunn can handle it off the bench. Now again, with these teams, these are teams that did not make the playoffs, so I'm not going to pick the Detroit Pistons to jump up to like 50 wins, even though it's possible, but they were already the 8th seed, so yeah, I'm done.